Hello everyone, how's it going? Dr. Incompetent here, and let's resume our complete beginner's guide to Stranded: Alien Dawn. And I want to begin by addressing a great point that someone put in the comments for the previous video, which is about skills. And just to that, I want to just say thank you so much to everyone for watching and commenting and helping to create a really good guide for new players so they can get into and enjoy this game by pointing out things that I have missed or just things that you've found in your own play that seems to work for you. And regarding skills, when we were kind of, looking at, like, for example, Connor and just picking our skills, if we see that Connor is interested in combat, I mentioned how, like, people who are interested in something might derive enjoyment from doing that, and it might make them happier to do something that they like. But with interested and indifferent, there is also the business of, which you might see in some other management games, like they have a passion for it. And the intensity of that passion kind of affects how quickly they skill up. And it's the same in this. And if you go into the help screen and you just search for skills, there is actually a really good breakdown here within the in-game help that tells you that interested survivors, if a survivor is interested in a skill, they get experience more quickly. And if you're indifferent, you actually can't get that skill above 6 and you're unhappy whenever you do it. And that's kind of, worth stating, because sometimes people start with a high skill, but they're indifferent, and you kind of want to put them on that, but then they don't like doing it. And you might have to do that depending on your situation. And also in terms of translation, like me personally, when I hear the word indifferent, I just think meh. Like I don't like it, but I don't dislike it. But in this, it very much means I do not like it. I do not want to do it. And I'm not going to be good at it. So it's perhaps like a more aggressive take on the word indifferent, or at least how I personally use it, but it's worth mentioning. And another point in this that I think is interesting is that you gain experience for your skills, but actually if your colonists aren't doing a skill, they will lose experience at it over time when they're not practicing it. However, you cannot drop a level that you have achieved, but your experience will sap away if you kind of turn off of that. So these are just things that are worth knowing. But again, at the beginning of the game, we're just making the best that we can, and we're trying to have people do good things, but we have so many tasks to get ourselves situated that optimizing in that direction isn't super necessary. But once we get off the ground, becoming more efficient and we have more colonists to choose from, then we can get a little bit more nuanced. So we've got everybody sleeping, and we have a plan in the morning to build a research desk, a fire pit, continue scavenging, bringing our resources over here to the stockpile that we built. We also have, as you can see, all of these blue outlined items in the environment are set for some kind of job, whether it's observing these mushrooms or this plant over here, or scavenging. So we have plenty of labor for everyone to do. So I'm just going to unpause the game, and I'm actually going to go all the way to triple speed. Because while they're sleeping, they're really not doing anything. So let's just speed it up until they wake up. We can see it's pretty chilly. It's 46 degrees. And notice how if I have the mouse out here, it says 44 degrees outside. But then if I move my mouse where my colonists are, you see how it says under the roof in the upper left? That's telling you, like, the temperature inside versus outside, and it wasn't great. Now, you notice how Rita, when she woke up, it said disturbed sleep, -3. If somebody wakes up or moves around them and makes noise, then they get disturbed sleep, which can make them sad. And it's very, very difficult to mitigate that, especially early. So there are just certain, it's not a huge hit. There are just certain things you just can't worry too much about. Okay, so now they're awake. I'm going to slow it down and just see what they all want to do. They're kind of groggy. They're just shifting around a bit. And that's because I gave them time to do whatever they want in the morning. If you remember, we look over here at their schedule, and they do have this kind of like anything break when they wake up. And you could take that away if you don't like that, but eventually they could do work in this time if they wanted to. So they're just kind of like, but they're not really doing much at all. So maybe because we have no recreation or no good food to eat, they're not jumping on anything. So I might say, you know what? I wanted to give you a chance to either eat breakfast or to recreate, but unless I assign them specifically to do that or have the right things, they're just kind of trying to like figure out what it is to do. So let's just take their schedule and let's just put them on work instead right there and just hop to it. Now, it might take them a second to get used to that, and eventually they might not be able to change the schedule in the minute of, or the moment of me altering it. Let's see, it's 5 in the morning, and now they're going to actually start doing stuff. So they're kind of like moving. Connor's getting something to eat, and everybody's going to do work. Observing, observing, observing. Good. You'll have to spend, like we talked about, a good amount of time early doing observation. But once you've done the observing of most of the stuff around you, then that job just kind of goes by the wayside. All right. So what did we get? We scavenged a pair of pants, 14 rations and 88 fuel. Tremendous. We don't have enough scrap to build what we're looking for, so we're going to need to get more, which we will. And we discovered glitter cap, which means we can farm this. We can plant and grow glitter caps. It only takes a farming of 1, as you can see in the tooltip here. It takes 8 days for it to grow. And glitter caps can be used in healing balm or for cooking, so they're very good. Healing balm was good. Eating them is fine. And we're still observing. Connor is in a bit of pain. Everybody's going to be in pain because of the nanites, but what can you do? All right. Big broadleaf tree allows, once we've observed it, we can now plant these and reforest if we want to get wood. Fantastic. Connor is on to scavenging. I'm just going to right-click these indicators here to kind of dismiss what we found. And, okay, so we discovered smoke leaf, which is something we can boil into tea, or we can dry it for people to smoke and to recreate. Very good. So we can use it in that way. We could grow it at, what did it say? Farming 2? Okay. And we just got 34 scrap metal. Remember how we were at a deficiency? Well, guess what? Scavenging is going to give us some more. And Connor's going to immediately go to work. And you can see him banging out the shelter to cover up the rest of these supplies. Excellent. He's making the campfire so we could do some cooking if we'd like. He's also building the desk, and we can see observing the bush, observing the twisted plant, and observing the bright leaf plant. Fantastic. I'm going to speed it up. So he's standing over there to eat, and he's going to go back to scavenging. And now it's time for people's recreation. They're taking walks. That's pretty much all they can do right now because we don't have anything built. But for leisure, we can. You see there's some recipes here. Make a dartboard or a punching pole, a shooting target, a shroom torch. And these are all great things, but we don't have the supplies for them yet. And that is because we've been just doing a lot of researching and scavenging. It's warmer, 55. People are going to sleep. Anxious, 8 on foot. Not ideal. Alright, Connor is up, doing stuff, disturbing everybody's sleep. And you can see how even though, there they go, they're moving a little faster. And they're chatting it up. Terrified Connor with a murder story, Yoko did. Well, that's what she does. But the fact that she terrified Connor with the murder story is shocking because Connor is, a bodyguard, cyborg. He's like, lady, that's crazy. A cause for celebration. So Yoko says, we put together a camp as quick as we could. Considering the circumstances, we're not sleeping in the dirt. We have a roof over our heads and a fire to illuminate the dark, uncertain nights. And the most important, we have survived. To us, this feels like an achievement worth honoring. We should gather and celebrate. Yes, let's do it. So that's during our normal time for recreation. Might as well. We got a bunch of scrap metal from scavenging there, and we discovered the fruit bush. So this is going to allow us to harvest bush fruits and plant them, which is phenomenal. We also discovered cloth blossom, which allows us to get cloth. Now, this might seem like a small thing, but I'm going to tell you what, in my Let's Play, I had none of this around me, and was missing it so badly. You need to make clothes. This will allow us to do that, which is fantastic. So now we're getting to the point, once we get this twisted plant and the squash-like plant, where we have the opportunity. No queued research. Oh, we finished it. Okay, great. So we finished our research desk here, and now it's time to queue research. So you can click on this to queue research and open up the research screen, or you can always get to this. You can see this here, or you can go to manage and go to research like this. Now, what do we want to research? Well, let me explain something about this that kind of surprised me at the beginning, which is that I did not know. I was looking at this research tree and assuming it went from top to bottom. And in some ways it does, but it appears in other ways to not have as much rhyme or reason. And let me explain that. You notice how, okay, let's say I wanted to, I'm at the top and I wanted to research tailoring. It's going to take 12 hours of solid research to do this. But down here, toolsmithing is lower down and it only takes 6 hours. Or you might see that laser pikes, take 12 hours or whatever. Now, some of these you have to unlock requirements by researching previous elements, but the time isn't always as obvious as you would imagine it to be. And so if you're looking for something, go all the way through this list to see what it is that you need. So let's talk about some things that we want to focus on. I personally believe that weaponsmithing is very important. And let's cue this up and do this right away. Let me tell you a little bit about some of the other ones that we want to queue up. Tailoring is good. Emergency rations, being able to make that food is useful. Lightning rods are important when it's thunderstorming to kind of protect your structures and such from getting hit by lightning and catching on fire. Toolsmithing allows you to make harvesting tools and survival kits for people to walk around with. Construction basics you have to do if you want to actually build rooms and build houses. So it's a longer one, but it's important. I'm going to go ahead and do weaponsmithing and construction basics, tailoring, toolsmithing, and emergency rations are good for giving yourself a meal that doesn't go bad, and it's only 6 hours. So I'm going to queue up this, and you could see the queue works from left to right. Weaponsmithing is what's active now, and then next will be, construction basics. Now, if you don't want something, you can right-click it out of the queue, and then left-click to put it there. You can also shift left-click, as you can see at the bottom of the tooltip, to bump something up to the top of the queue if you'd like, but this is fine. I'm going to just close this up. Now we've got research. Some other things that I want to do, and I'm just going to set a bunch of jobs. So to farm, we just click on the button down here, and once we click on the farming button, you're going to see several different options appear. Again, just like everything in this game, some of these might be hidden until you discover something that could actually go into this category. And what we want to start with are food crops. So let's click on the fruit bush, and then once you select the fruit bush, you open up this overlay comes out, which is the fertility or kind of soil overlay, which shows you where it's ideal to plant our field. So it defaults to a 2x2 fruit bush field, and it tells you on the tooltip that follows the cursor around, this soil is silt, so we're only going to get 75% growth, and the intensity of the green goes up on the grid for higher match soil. So, for example, over here, where the loam soil is, you could see, and these bushes already are, the green is like a darker, more vibrant green, and I have 100% growth on this. Now, it's nice if you can to put your farms close to your base and maybe make it part of your enclosure. And we'll try to do that, but it doesn't have to be the case that your farms are inside your fenced area, which we're going to eventually build for defenses. But if we can, let's try to get things nice and tight so we can defend our fields. And if I start and just left-click once to begin the field, I'm going to make, a rather large field, and it'll tell you, for example, this is the maximum length. But we only have a few people, and you don't actually, I can tend to make them bigger than what you need. Now, there's nothing wrong with having more food, of course, but the problem you can get into if you make your field too big for your needs is that you're going to have people having to work on farming more than is necessary, so they won't be able to do other jobs. And then also, your berries or whatever it is that you grow will rot because you won't be able to eat them in time, and it will just be wasteful. Until you can get refrigeration and then eventually freezing, preserving your goods is a little bit more challenging until you turn them, like maybe if you turn them into emergency rations, that's cool, but people don't like eating those as much. So I'm going to make a very simple 6x8 field right there. And so you see it lays in, and then somebody is going to have to come and work on this. And we already set our farmer up to begin that. But we're not done, because I want to farm, and I also want to get in these glitter caps. All that's available are the plants that we have observed. So I'm going to, let's say right next to this, just put in a nice little glitter cap field that is 100% growth. That looks pretty reasonable. You can make your fields bigger or smaller. I don't know the numbers for like ideal efficiency. I just like to make them on the bigger side so that I have plenty, but not too big so that I'm wasting. And you can always change these fields. You can adjust them. If I click on the field, for example, this fruit bush field, you see all these buttons on this column that attach to this tooltip. We can change the crop, we can extend the field, we can reduce the field, we can overall remove the field, we can fertilize if we have fertilizer. You could turn off harvesting or planting, and you can even, if your field is enormous and you don't want to waste stuff, you can even, you see down here, change it so you only harvest until you have a certain amount in stock, and then you just leave the rest out there. So kind of pick as you need, and that's also a way to manage this and make it not too time consuming. But I'm going to just leave it here and then adjust as we go once we see how much we need. Now, this is when we want to also move into farming and click non-edibles, because we certainly want cloth blossom, and we also want smoke leaf. To be honest, there's no reason like to not have some of these things. They might be, you know, less here we go. They might be less important than food, but cloth is just incredibly important. So I'm going to grow a nice large field so that I can have plenty of this. And then I'm going to go back to farming, and I'm going to select smoke leaf, and I'll make a field of this, but it's not going to be huge. I'm not like, I don't really know if I want a ton of that. And then grass and bushes. I like to have blade grass because we use it for a ton of things. And I'm separating all of my fields out here, and this looks good. And do I want big bushes for sticks? Yes, but it's not a huge concern. The sticks are, I mean, like you see, we have bushes all over, so I'm not going to grow a huge amount, but I will grow just a little bit. And now we have a bunch of fields plotted in, and this looks great. We're still in the business of observing. It's going to take a lot of our time and scavenging, but that's okay. And you can see Rita is like flying over here to go get that pointy red plant. Very good. There was one that was closer, so if you can see one that is closer, you can click on that. Oh, and I changed her mind. She's actually going to go, this job has become available, and she does want to, on the way there, she does want to farm more than that. Okay, we discovered skin bark. We finished this. And skin bark is a plant that we can grow to process into, it says a leather-like material, which we can craft veggie leather, which allows us to make some armor and things if we research it. So this is pretty nice, and it's a new crop, so we can go to farming non-edibles. And if we want to grow skin bark, well, it wants to have that loam soil as well. So we'll just look for a nice place to put that. And this is it right here. And now this is not perfect. You see how we're like moving onto silt a little bit? But I don't mind because 93% is still reasonable. And now we have a new research option, which is that veggie armor I was talking about. And I'm going to look at this. We got a bunch of metal, which is fantastic. So now that metal is done, we can click on furniture. We can actually start to make beds, which is a better sleeping situation for our people. But I don't really make beds myself until I can create rooms and like a nicer place for them overall. We can make shelves if you want for certain types of resources. And this is not a bad thing to have at all. Let's see. We're going to need a workbench so that we can start crafting our weapons, for example. And a cook stove is a great idea to make food that's easier to use than this campfire. But let's say, while we don't have that yet, we wanted it. Let's say we wanted to cook. I could click on the campfire. And then I can click over here where it says quick recipes. Now this will show more options as we learn more recipes. But I can make, I can boil emergency rations to allow them to give +6 happiness so that people can actually derive happiness from this if I want it. But I could also make grain porridge, veggie soup, and meat soup. Now, meat soup, I don't have any meat yet, but once we get attacked, we will. Veggie soup, so once we get those glitter caps in, and some of these other vegetables that we observe, we can start to make this. And we want grain cob. We haven't found that yet, I don't think, to make grain. But currently, I'm just going to be eating kind of like raw food and rations until I get that on. I do have to say that I'm going to go to camp, and I'm going to go to shelter, and select this one. And I'm going to just extend my little stockpile area a bit. I'm going to put this right here so that I can drop in maybe some shelves, maybe the cook stove, maybe a workbench. I can also just go ahead and put one here on the edge and extend this with some crafting. So you can see Rita is crushing it. And unlike the reason I have kind of like, you know, more fields and I grow a lot is unlike a lot of these games, growing doesn't actually take that much time and maintenance from your people. Sometimes farming can be like an unbelievably cumbersome job, but this, it's not too bad. And we need all of this stuff anyway. So we have Rita farming, 2 people observing, and Connor is transporting and constructing. Excellent. So we are, we got an achievement here for getting this cloth in. And now I'm going to go to production, and I'm just going to ask for a workbench. Now we can't, oh that's right, we can't even start it because we don't have wood yet, but and we're going to need a bunch of wood. We can build the cook stove right away if we want to, and I like to kind of put this by the resources. So there we go. And let's go to orders, let's go to cut, and let's just zoom out until we find the trees that are closest to us, probably these right here. And I'm just going to select trees from the cut menu because all I want to do is cut trees and get wood. And I'm going to cut these trees. I have 11 sticks. That's not enough. So we're just going to go for bushes, and we can, you know, cut down a bunch of bushes. Again, you'll see what ratios you need, but sometimes, like in Dwarf Fortress or something, you'll need a ton. But watch this. Connor's going to go cut this. And just this one little section, we're getting many more sticks than you would expect. Look, he's already got 50. So you don't actually need to cut quite as much. I mean, having a lot is good, but that's a very simple job. And now we have 178. So you don't have to go hog wild on that. and it's celebration time, and they're going to come have a good time and gather. And this is good because if I click on Rita, for example, you can see she's actually pretty happy. They're very resilient. They have the pain from the nanites. They don't like eating on foot. We need to build them a table. And we have no relaxation measures for them. But overall, you know, they still have 3 days of survivor's determination, which is a huge boost until we get our psychological needs met. They're cheerful. They had a good walk. So that's not bad. Now, what we're going to want is in furniture, we're going to want a table and some of these items. However, we need wood, and that's what we're cutting down so we can start getting some tables and chairs in for people to eat instead of just sitting around a campfire. But to be honest, sitting around a campfire isn't so bad for people who are just survived a terrible accident. And it is raining. So this is going to make everybody unhappy. But that's okay. And look, 20 plus 20 happiness from the celebration too. So people are in good spirits. They are getting wet, but they'll be able to sleep and, not be wet. And there they go. So everyone, we did a bunch this episode. And we still have a ton to do. We got farming happening. We're observing more stuff. We're expanding a little bit of our crafting operation. And we're going to start gathering a bunch of wood so that we can fence in our area, build some basic defenses, get a workbench going to make weapons, etc. And we will get into that next episode. I hope you're still finding this series to be useful and fun. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Take care.